Do you know what's seriously messed up? How we blame just one party and hold one party responsible for the mistakes that happen. I saw a status, and I know the person's gonna know who I'm talking about when I say what the status was, that basically said that it was when Labour was in charge and leading the country that Grenfell Tower was built. I don't know which years this was that Labour was in charge, but they need to take responsibility, and the current leader needs to do everything in his power to correct the mistakes that were made under previous Labour leaders when it comes to what happened at Grenfell Towers. We're holding Theresa May and the Conservative government responsible for what has happened with the fire at Grenfell Towers and its stuff, because of the cladding that was paid for and clearly done on the cheap, which led to the fire spreading. But if a sprinkler system had actually been installed at the time that it was built when the Labour government was in charge, then the seriousness of the fire could have been prevented, and the extreme loss of life that has probably happened could have been prevented. These tragedies that have been happening can be prevented if the government pulls its finger out, not just the current government, but any government that's in charge in this country, that takes power in this country, needs to take responsibility for their failings. If I make a mistake, like in my life, I'm expected to take responsibility for that and the effect that it can have on other people, on the lives of my children, of my parents, of my brother, of my aunts and uncles, the knock-on effect that something that I do, what it can cause for people. Why is it that when it comes to a government being in charge, they always try to defer the responsibility for what happened, like with what happened at Grenfell Towers, onto whoever's in charge now? I'm sorry to Jeremy Corbyn, but the party that you are part of is in the past partially responsible for the tragedy that's happened at Grenfell Towers. I mean, how can I now support a party that in the past had a leader that agreed to go to war in another country because they discovered that there was oil that they wanted to get, claiming that there were weapons of mass destruction? All these alleged things were supposed to be reasons why they do the things that they do. Protests happen and people in this country get angry because they see daily on the news and on the internet the loss of life because responsibility is not being taken. I get a lot of criticism from people that are close to me and from people that don't know me at all for the things that have happened in my past. I can't do anything about the past, but those things that are happening that the government haven't taken responsibility for, yes, it's in the past, but do you really think that if you had done something, that all this loss of life that will have happened would have happened? All you had to do was have sprinkler systems installed to decrease the loss of life. All you had to do was keep the fire stations open and stop saying that you needed to cut money from the most needed services. We need firemen and firewomen, fire people in this country. We need the NHS. We need all these things that people are trying to take away, saying that, oh, we need to cut the money, we need to cut the money, we need to cut the money. Why are you taking money, be you a Labour government or a Conservative government, why are you taking money from people that need it the most? Those people in Grenfell Towers, those people that were taken, whose lives have been taken needlessly in this kind of tragedy, did not, I mean, the cuts to the benefit system, to the welfare system, have led to people dying through suicides and through malnutrition, not being able to eat, not being able to light their homes, not being able to heat their homes because they've been sanctioned, because they were late to an appointment, because they for many reasons, because they weren't physically able to get to the place where the appointment was at. I mean, I know from personal experience, and I'm angry, and I don't feel that I should be scared to get my feeling out about this. I mainly wanted to talk about what's happened at Grenfell Towers because I'm disgusted that it was under a Labour government that this tower was built and the sprinkler system was not installed, and it's under a Conservative government that this cladding was put on the outside of this building to make it look less of an eyesore, which led to the deaths. Both parties have contributed to the tragic deaths of probably hundreds of people, including young children that were living in there. And anybody who says, oh, they were refugees, they were Muslims, they were Africans, there weren't anybody that was any value, how can anybody say that another human being's life is not valuable? I'm going to go now because, partially because the battery is dying, and partially because I just wanted to get this out there. I feel passionately about this, and I wanted to get this out there because I am quite frankly disgusted to learn this, and that a party that I supported and that I have voted for is partially responsible for these disgusting things, for war and for the death of people in our own country, and that they didn't take responsibility for it, equal responsibility for it. I hope that Jeremy Corbyn is going to come out and say something in regards to this, because it is all going to come out in the long run that it was his party that in the past was partially responsible for what's ended up happening at Grenfell Towers. As much as I do support them, I'm sorry, but I have to call them out just as easily as the Tory party if they're responsible for something. Do all the usual things that you would do for this video, liking, sharing, commenting, and I'll see you again soon. Goodbye.